Sorry guys, I had to do a couple of these. If you guys haven't seen the prop cash, link in the description if you want some prop cash. I don't know, for like a fun Father's Day trick or something. That might be fun for you guys. What's going on? How's it going? My name is Andrew. That's Professor Meatball. This is fake money, but the content on this channel is gonna make you real money, and that's what we're here for, giving you guys the tools to get your own passive income, your financial freedom, hitting that like button all the way up. Hey guys, I'll mention it next. In about like 5-ish minutes, I'll tell you what 1,000 likes are going to do to this. Look at that crypto market. Ethereum 20%, Dogecoin up 11, Bitcoin up 12, and you're looking at a guy who has 2 thumbs and bought the dip over the weekend. Heck yeah, if you guys bought that AMC dip because of the videos that we were pumping out earlier, such as the one from yesterday and the one from the day before, nice job, right? AMC is currently up, let's take a look, 12.67%. Not quite at that level that would receive that hot flash buy signal, right, at 1464, that video we saw yesterday, but we still have so much left to cover. For example, me driving to my stupid job because society refuses to collapse every single day, right? We not only have to talk about the SEC.gov suspending, I was reading through this entire document, suspending the dark fibers that connects different dark pool access to these algorithms and trading from these hedge fund perspectives, as well as previous dark fiber scams, right? And how SEBI alleges manipulation, irregular acts, poor due diligence all the way back in 2019. So this goes deep. We also have to talk about CEOs of major banks testifying this week, margin debt at its all-time high. Luckily, you guys are here with me and Professor Meatball. So let's get going. First thing you'll notice is that GME took a major nosedive. Could it be due to the put wall that we identified last week? Right, this is on Friday, the 21st, and we saw this $63 million put wall that day during After Hours. This is After Hours with Andrew, and you guys are going to be watching Andrew. Who's me? What's going on? Kremer is in here. DH, Paul, nice. Izzy, Hints, Austin, Tide. What's going on? Give every one of you rockets in the chat. Give it to you, because one of the things that you'll probably notice is that GME dip that we've seen from 185 all the way down to 176. That's a $10 dip. That's basically everything that GME was fighting hard for all day, and bounced right below 1, 2, and 3 levels of support. Now just 10 minutes left to go, and seeing a quick run up to meet its VWAP once again. It's volumetric weighted average price. Let's see that price action continue onward. Let me pull up my pen so that I can draw. But yeah, this is a regular day of options for GME last Friday, and this is a regular day. This tool that I'm using is called Option Sonar. You'll find your own link if you want your own premium version of Option Sonar in the description down below. So take a look at this beautiful sea of blue. These are all calls, and a bunch of them are actually, well, no, it's just smattering, right? None of them are above $1 million per strike level, but each strike price added together is looking like 2 or 3 million in the money. I would even consider them deep in the money calls. And this doesn't look like hedge fund behavior. Normally those are even deeper, like $40 or so in the money. Hamfingers is asking suspension of those dark fibers, and we're going to talk about the fibers in just a second. This was a press release out from May 7th, 2021. I believe there's some contingency of when this would come to fruition. The conclusion of this document is right here, by actually the assistant secretary. So I wonder if they didn't have like a more, I don't know, I don't want to bash any secretaries, but doesn't this feel like something that maybe Gary wants to sign off on himself, the Gensler, but it is thereby ordered pursuant to section blah that hereby B, hold on, file numbers blah 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 and B and hereby are temporarily suspended. In addition, the commission is instituting proceedings to determine whether the proposed rule changes should be approved or disapproved, and with a brand new press release, possibly thanks to those of you in the hive mind here, I might be able to take a closer jab at what is happening with the dark fiber and why we saw some pretty bodacious rips this morning into the power hour. Hold on, let me get rid of that. Perfect. Okay. You noticed that GME was trending off of that second cup from earlier last week. There's that cup and the handle. The handle trended all the way down into after hours and spiked up. Don't say we don't warn you about these. We then saw a minor cup form. These are all intraday cups, which means that this isn't following the exact ethos of a normal cup and handle, right? Normally those take days to weeks to form, but it is still very similar psychology, especially when AMC and GME are so manipulated. It's getting harder to understand the technical analysis here. All right, so FDIC only insures our checking accounts at the 250. After mother of all short squeezes, ask GR, well, we have issues accessing money to and from banks. You should be able to consider this ASAP, right? That's why I've been telling everyone to be able to spread out your investments to different brokers, especially if you don't have a Webull account. This is a great opportunity to get in. Pull off the band-aid. Don't transfer your entire account unless you're on Robinhood, in which case you do what you got to do, right? Get off ASAP. That's the link in the description down below. But yes, there is going to be trouble in the future, and the best way is to put many eggs in many baskets. Okay, so that document, we were looking at the dark fiber press release from the SEC themselves. We'll dig into that in just a second. Who is the Muppet who paper-handed on GME today? David coming out with the colorful insults here. Let's see. Sheeb up 50%, SafeMoon up 60%. Yeah, there is going to be a lot of altcoins gaining popularity now, which is one of the actual biggest problems with how China is going to go back and slam these altcoins for gaining popularity, right? If you did invest in Sheeb and SafeMoon, right, congrats. This is the opportunity for you to really consider. Altcoins and the crypto markets overall are going to give you a much it's not a diversified risk portfolio, let's just say. That's the nicest way to say it, right? So if you are up high, just know that, you know, the crypto market doesn't really move 20% on a bounce without having some serious repercussions coming in soon. And that's just for the stable coins. I bought into some stable coins. I bought that dip. I am not going to be letting go of my stable coins. But for now, I would say if you, even as volatile as Doge, that is the cusp of like a risk-averse trader, right? You probably don't want to be keeping your money and riding it long-term. For example, let's go to trading view. Take a look at Sheeb. This is the USD tether. Take a look at that beautiful bounce here. So up to, I'm going to say 11-ish because there's 4 zeros before 11. But this was from a price level of, and I cannot read, drag this, from that buy, 4 out of 4 buy on the 22nd. This would have been from 8-ish. So that is roughly a 50% rise. And so that's 50% up and already on the hourly starting to push up against overbought Bollingers. That means that a dip is coming soon. Who knows when it's going to come? There are no sell signals yet from cheat code algorithm, which is the helpful, handy dandy second opinion that we all need. Let's see. Look at all those neutral trades going through. Yeah, take a look. No greens, no reds, just flat trading. Let's see. Love this show, Andrew Bro Money. Oh, I like that. Tristan knows what to do with those portmanteaus here. Oh, sugary coffee. That's what I need. Okay, so we also have the dark fibers here. So we also had to talk about, we just have so much to talk about today, guys. Margin debt at its all-time high, right? And the CEOs of major banks, they're testifying this information. So this is not going to be an isolated incident. It's going to be going throughout the day. Senate.gov. First hearing is going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern. What is that? 7 a.m. my time? Maybe I'll be streaming this. This might be fun. Scissors in the chat if you want me to stream this on the 26th, which is going to be a Wednesday. We also have this DD here that is loading, so we'll give it a chance. They have done their best to summarize the GME mother of all short squeeze thesis in a way that hopefully appeals to individuals outside of this community. So there you go. This is the post that you guys want to be able to show your friends, family, countrymen, the people who don't have the context. So we're going to make this video later after Power Hour actually is over. But for now, let's keep looking at that options chain. Very suspicious on the 21st. That's a pretty good explanation of what is happening with GME. One other thing to consider is that GME continues to rise in terms of the short interest changes, up to 0.67%. Like this small, slow and steady, but we haven't seen 20% short interest in a couple of days, if not weeks, for GME, and now we've just crossed over. But for AMC, take a look. Ortex is continuing to report lower and lower. This is the lowest we've seen in a long time, short interest percents. Now this is obviously not counting the FTDs and the naked shorting activity. However, that is outside of Ortex's, like their capacity for being able to track. Luckily, there is Norcal tracker that gives us a whole tab about FTDs overall. And this was at 1.5 million last time I checked, right before I started streaming. So this just started this fall. Aren't any super abnormal FTDs. I think the data stopped getting reported on April. So as a reminder, guys, T+21 and T+35 FTD cycles are converging this week, which is why we have our eyes to the prize for the price action this week. 1,000 of you. Okay, now I'll tell you what's going to happen with 1,000 likes here. At 1,000 likes, we're gonna have Meatball, hey, finally do his dab. We've been trying to get to certain reasonable like thresholds each time, but each time we haven't been able to actually get Meatball to dab. So Professor Meatball will be doing a dab. I'll be zooming the camera in. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, get excited. Loki Noki coming in again. I heart the stonk, but I also heart the like button. Oh, that's a good pairing. Loki Noki just wants to get pinned again. Heck yeah. Loki, you are low-key getting pinned on screen. Okay, let's put Loki down here. That's fun. We have fun here. Boom. Anonymous is like, what is an FTD? Failure to deliver. It's it's a consequence of selling a stock that you don't own and you don't plan on owning it within a certain time frame. Dark fibers are suspended. This doesn't prevent access in the same way that you think to the dark pool, that like you would imagine is cutting off short whale access to dark pools. It does something similar to that vein, but not exactly what you're thinking. We'll take a second and look at DJ No Play says, I think F9 break in Kong versus Godzilla opening is what jump our price today. Ooh, I would say it's whatever techno analysis that we were doing for AMC and the fact that retailers are looking to be able to buy that dip. Hopefully you did. 2 more minutes until we ring that bell, guys. Let's see. Hofzilana 1 getting in here. And Irish Nomad O'Rourke Glynn. What's up? How's it going? Sorry that Webull is not treating you well. They're not perfect, but diversification, that's what we're here for. Make sure that at least you have a free Webull account. Why not? What are dark fibers? We're going to cover that all in just a second. Just to make sure that we are looking once more at the price action here before we jump in. AMC having one last shot at 1380. It's a level of resistance that we've been rejected by not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. No, 4 times. 4 times rejected at 1380. We'll talk about those touch points. 1, 2, 3, and 4 once again. Now this actually got rejected halfway to the next level of resistance, so we had to talk about that. The fact that we were rejected by 180, then peaked above, very similar to the price action of AMC earlier, trying to peak above a level of resistance, then coming down to meet 180. So it looks like at the end of the day, AMC 1367 up 13.16%. That would have been cool if the two numbers were the same. That would really please my brain. But with 110 million volume, that's not too shabby. Still lower than, oh, actually it's higher now than the average volume. The average volume continues to fall. I remember when that volume was like 200, 300 million per day. But GME hovering right above 180, that is going to be the closing price at 1.84% up. Now that said, why did we not sustain 188, which was the level, which is the height of today's price action, and we had some, but not quite good enough, but some significant volume, 4.6%, right? The average is still 20 million. So AMC had a day that far exceeded its average on the 3-month in terms of volume, but GME had only 25% of its average, so to say, right? This is pretty much a normal day for GME at this rate. We're going to talk about all of that and dark fibers into the after hours. Welcome. I need to staple this to the wall over there. The after hours with Andrew. I think I need a. I think I straight up need a like star wipe there. Gene Simmons acts. Hey, yeah, you see that? There's a little Hamilton program there too. Let's see. Sharing is caring. Dollar Tree is funding Citadel at this point. So, ding ding. How long are they going to suspend dark fiber? So that question is pretty much until there is questions. This answers all the questions you guys have about like how long, what is a dark fiber, what exactly is going on. But it does it in like a not super clear way. It does it in like a bad way, which is the point of government, I guess. Let's see now. I'm going to search SEC. And I'm going to search whether or not they have like brand new dark fiber materials. The SEC releases, the press releases here. No, the 19th. Okay. Wow. They're releasing so much money to whistleblowers. $28 million, $31 million. Jeez. Basic logic. Everyone's saying drink. What am I drinking for? Ding ding. Cheers. I'll drink. Tristan Kate says, thanks for the shout out, Andrew Bro Money. Tristan is a cool cat. All right, my coffee is empty. Now, so this is to pay it forward, right? Usually I need at least 1,200 likes, but I'll pay it forward. Cheers, you guys. Nothing like a coffee and a Glen. Okay. Hey, Andrew, we need to make these hedgies pay and pay big. Doug Yankees fan, you know you're speaking my language now. Can they potentially borrow the stock indefinitely? Don Roberto, we've covered so many videos about if they can. The logistical question is no, they can't. But how long can they? That's the better question. Indefinitely is definitely out of the question. That's a good way to put it. Indefinitely is out of the question. Also, we're going to cover AMC stock. How much is 10,000 invested this year in AMC stock? Now, people that have seen every live stream, like you, I'm talking to you. But if you've seen every live stream, you would know that we've actually read this article before. But they keep on, I don't know, like reposting this. Because this says 2 p.m. 5:24, right? So they either keep reposting this or updating this. So we do have to be able to understand, like, there's a lot of money that you could have made buying the dip. I bought Bitcoin 3 times at 50 grand. So I was down 40% over this past weekend. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to buy the dip. So I bought it. There we go. What's AMC at right now? He is at 1369. Currently after hours. Duck, duck, duck. What's going on, y'all? Stozy says, I'll send you a like, brother. It's been a while since I hopped on. Well, thank you for coming in. And James Cordero, what's up? Will I do a meetup in Norcal? You know, yeah. I don't know what we'll do though. I also don't know what what the responsibilities of creating an in-person gathering is. Maybe we'll do like a Zoom gathering first and see, so that we just jump over all of the logistical regulations. Am I live streaming Superstonk today? I guess I could. Thunder Jumper is the one that asked. So if more people want me to live stream the Superstonk AMA, I will. But for now, I want to be able to cover at least a couple of videos here. So what do you guys think? Will I? Stozy says he used to be an Andrew hater. That's good. The used to is great. I'm surprised. I think slow mode is on. I don't know how the bots have come in here. I'm gonna ban him. Don't worry, guys. CEOs of major banks testifying margin debt is at its all-time high. So margin debt graph. FINRA's reported margin debt article, debt possibly in trillions. If you didn't read the article, you'll literate chimp. This is what happens when you're mean to people. Margin debt has exploded by 49% in 1 year to 800 billion. The actual figure could be in the trillions. This is margin debt. It's very boring, but it's important to cover. All right, people want to see on the AMA. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna find where the AMA is. It's, when is it today? It's gonna be me. Brendan Burns says, hey honey, back from New Zealand. You see Pippa's tweet re-sovereign? What are dark fibers, you saucy stonk you? Well, I guess we're gonna have to talk about them. I did not see Pippa's tweet. Should I retweet? What exactly is oh right, she was talking about sovereign coin when she was on the show too. Okay, yeah. Like sovereign cryptocurrencies. Viv R says, if the hedgies keep borrowing shares and we keep buying and new investors jump in, that would keep the snowball moving and pressure to AMC squeeze. Correct, Viv, you got the right idea. We keep buying and we keep holding. I mean, they are printing their own death certificates every day, and that true price is slowly getting uncovered, and that's the beauty of it. Okay, we gotta talk about dark fibers here. NSE dark fiber scam, SEBI. So there's an easy way to explain it here. Hold on. What? Huh? Huh? Hold on. Where did my post go? That post has disappeared, so I'm gonna have to find it again. Then we'll do a little bit of price action analysis. Rook and Pawn saying, hey, why are you starting stream so late? Well, Rook, here's an idea. You'll notice that during Power Hour, I had to take a whole 15 minutes to get up to 1,000 viewers, and now we get 1,500. So basically, the actual explanation is, one, I might be starting a new job soon, so that is interesting. But so that's why I want to be able to give you guys the expectation that we're still going to have plenty of videos, but the live streams are going to be around this time, if not a little later. So that's After Hours with Andrew Momoni, right? The other half of it is the worse timing you have in terms of live streaming and getting the information out while other people are trying to get information out, the more YouTube will remember this. And that's why some of you have to search for me live streaming. So just to give you guys an idea of how the algorithm works. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I do have to be able to show you guys what's going on here. in terms of dark fibers. Dark fibers, one sec. Done. Okay, so feeling 0.590 and 5978 actually makes it pretty darn clear. So it's not ending dark pool trading. It's suspending, it's suspending third-party systems like cloud-based to connect to the dark pool. Cloud-based systems give them extra time to see our trades and make trades against us accordingly. Now they don't have that extra time. All right, so that's a pretty, I mean, that gives you a sense of what's going on here. All right, let's do that video real quick. Let's deal with dark pools today. Which one of them? Which one of you guys having here? I'm trying to find one of your comments so that I can pin it and then be like, dark pools. Oh, here we go. I missed the beginning. Can you explain dark fibers? Sure. Okay, so Louis Galvao, you're gonna be the face of the questions people here. Okay, ready guys? Do you ever feel like Louis when he misses the beginning and he wants us to explain from the beginning what dark fibers are? Sure thing, Louis. I got you covered. What's going on? My name is Andrew. That's Professor Meatball. He's sneak mode behind me, but there he is. I just summoned him with the power of treats. And if you guys want to give Meatball a treat, the best way is to look at that like counter, see if it's above 1600 or not, and if it's not, smashing that real quick and commenting out which one you are, either in the live chat or in the comments below. That's the way to go about this. We have a press release from May 7th, 2021 from the Securities and Exchange Commission themselves, right? March 10th, New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, blah, 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 pursuant to section blah, 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 will have a proposed rule change to provide users with access to the system and its connectivity to the data feeds of several third parties and establish associated fees, and take away and suspend these file numbers here. Hold on, they're suspending this file numbers, blah, 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 blah. This is suspending dark fiber access. And what exactly is that? Well, we're going to give you the information right away because you guys watch until the end. You guys are the real heroes, but some of the people that want to be able to get that information first, well, let's go through the comment section here. It's pretty much written out here by feeling 0.5978. It is not ending dark pool trading. Let's stop that right now. It's suspending third-party systems like cloud-based to connect to the dark pool. Cloud-based systems give them that extra time to see our trades and make trades against us accordingly. This sounds quite an awful lot like payment for order flow. We've mentioned this overall so many times before, and make trades against us accordingly. This is the concept behind these high-frequency trading algorithms attacking the price. And now that they're not allowed to, look at AMC's stock price go. In fact, GME had a good amount of that in the very beginning of the day as well. Look at those brothers having the same dip at the exact same time and touching on the levels of resistance respectively over here on AMC side 1380 and on GME side 187. 4 major touch points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you wouldn't believe it, those are the exact same 4 touch points, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now that said, when we had those 4 touch points, AMC continued and is now contesting successfully this level of resistance that it was not able to before, and GME on the other hand has gone down 2 levels of support. How exactly did this happen? Well, you're gonna have to watch that GME video coming out right after this. But first, dark pools. This is not the first time. That's a bark for buy. You guys know it. We have bark for buys often, and that is something that we're gonna have to cover in just a second. That's that after Meatball has a second with the door, we're gonna talk about past levels of dark fiber scams back in 2019. all the way back in 2019, Money Life digital team giving us a sense of what dark fiber scams are. Irregular acts, poor due diligence, fraud, misrepresentation, and false statements, right? Following its investigation of a whistleblower complaint, market regulators SEC Board of India, well, I was going to say C, but SEBI, has established the nexus between senior officials of the National Stock Market of India and the Sampark Infotainment PVT Ltd, right? Very simply, let's actually go to the only parts that you need to understand. SEBI order alleges mismanagement, manipulation, irregular acts, absence of due diligence, misrepresentation, and false statements in the whole dark fiber episode. The way the colo facility has been mismanaged and manipulated by certain trading members with the active connivance of an unauthorized service provider and the officials of NSC, as evident from the discussions and observations made by me in the earlier paragraphs, shows NSC's apathy towards the principles of transparency, fairness, and equity managed by SEBI on them. So India's arm of the SEC essentially going in and taking a look at the suspicious activities with respect to network connectivity. So a dark fiber, or an unlit fiber, as defined by the SEBI with respect to network connectivity, refers to an already laid but unused or passive optical fiber, which is not connected to such active electronics or equipments which do not have other data flowing through them and are available for use in fiber optic communication. The easiest way you can understand is that there are markets that are lit, like New York Stock Exchange, right? And there are fibers that connect to those exchanges. This is a dark fiber, which is not something that directly connects to a New York Stock Exchange. It's going to be accessed for a high frequency trading algorithm that says, hey, this is one of the ways that you can access the dark pools, the ATS data, and affect the price negatively with buying or selling pressure in whichever direction you choose as a hedge fund or a market maker. However, and here's where the fraudulent activity happens. In May 2015, NSE allowed Sampark Infotainment, an unauthorized service provider, to give P2P connectivity to two brokers. Here are the two brokers here. SEBI says Sampark allegedly laid dark fiber connectivity for those brokers with a promise of more bandwidth and lower latency for their data transmission, and continued the service even after it was found that Sampark did not possess the necessary license from the Department of Telecommunications to provide blah, 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 blah. Right? The co-location or Algo scam came to light in mid-2015 when Money Life wrote about it for the first time, allowing multiple letters from a whistleblower. So this gives us a little look into what the SEC could be paying for its whistleblowing. Right here is some press releases here. And you can also follow along with what the SEC continues to release out to the public. We have here SEC charging healthcare companies with fraud and awarding basically 2 days in a row, $28 million and $31 million for enforcement actions. All right, so SEC making some major plays. We know that they sent out a lawsuit for hedge funds that were short selling, and now we're looking at whether or not this suspension of dark fibers is directly connected to AMC's price action, especially since both of these were trending with positive velocity upward, and GME was the only one that fell short at the end of the day, right? Fumbled at the finish line. That's okay. We are going to be providing you the information that you're looking for. So once again, let's go to the bottom of this article to make sure you guys haven't missed too much. If you wanted to be able to look at this, I'm going to link in the description below so you guys have whatever context you need. Main point is this has happened before. Completely other countries were paying attention to this way before Gary Gensler started settling down as his position as the chief of the SEC. So let's see if there's a conclusive part to this here. Oh, yep. Within the next 3 months, SEBI has asked NSE to prepare a comprehensive documents policy, including guidelines, blah, blah, blah. Chitra Ramakrishna, the then managing director of NSE, is barred from holding any position in any market player for the next 3 years. And oh, look, since it's back in 2019, he is about to come on back to this, the market now. It sounds a lot like Bill Huang and other Tiger Cubs from the Archegos, explosion from a couple of weeks ago, almost a couple of months ago. So once again, bark for buy. Let me buy one. Let me do this. Let's share the love. I'm going to buy a share of GME here. Create new order. And that's the policy, right? We issued an apology for thinking that clout or likes or subscribers have anything to do with loving the stock here. So now when Meatball barks, that is an opportunity for us to buy in the stock. So we're gonna make sure that we have extended hours turned on, and then turn this into 1. Unlock trading. As always, my password is 1234556. I always forget not to say it during these streams. What I'm going to do is place that order. I think GME is actually on a excellent dip here, and I like to be able to buy the stocks when it has a solid dip here. I'm going to create an order for AMC over here, and I'm going to buy 10. Tasty. Oh wait, hold on. I have to make sure it's extended hours. Boom. All right. So if you guys like this video and you want to be able to catch Bark for Buys on a future live stream, right? Make sure that even if you are subscribed on our way to 90,000 subscribers, where we're going to have a major swag giveaway, you should likely also consider hitting that bell button and thanking each of the people who not only pressed the subscribe button, but went next door to the join button and became a member there, or went down to the Patreon link to support me as well. Hey, thanks so much, and we'll see you in the money. Okay, so that was the dark fiber video, and that was only a piece of what we need to cover. Baby piece of what we need to cover here, because we also need to talk about margin debt, as well as when is that AMA. It's going to be at 4:30 Eastern. Is that time already happened yet? No, it's going to be in about 9 minutes. So those of you that said you wanted to watch it, we will, but we won't do it quite yet. Not until 4:30 Eastern. So I have at least one more video to produce. One about why GME crashed today, perhaps. GME friends, let's throw some rockets in the chat. AMC friends, let's throw some gorillas in the chat. Everyone's an ape here, just to help me differentiate who's interested in what right now. Remember, apes don't fight apes. I'm just looking to see what the representation is in here. Okay. Hope you guys are having a nice Monday too. That's one of the best things to be able to say about your day, even if it's a Monday. As long as you're having a good one, I'm having a good one. And Meatball will dab at 1,000. That's really close. About 300. 300 more. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, I'm going to go back and read some of your comments here. Get him, Professor. Let's see. Oh, I love this movement. Oh, baby. Spoon Platoon. What's up? Chris Ellington says, Andrew, my dude, so many tennies are flowing today. Missed the live chat action today, but I hope that it went well for you and your fellow apes. Chris, this is the After Hours show, so you haven't missed a single thing. Chris Mix saying, why does the stock barcode? Barcoding is just like limited price action. Like if you can go in a little bit higher and look at the price action here between $179.20 and $180, you're just looking at low volume trying to mix with like similar guessing points. Every time you see price action is because someone guessed that the price should be a little bit higher than someone else. And barcoding is an effect that there are fewer people in the market, and a lot of them are thinking very similarly. And right, let me choose my words carefully. I would say that instead of crash, GME has gone down 3 levels of support, caught at the 4th one, and then bounced off of that one to reclaim 2 levels of resistance. That's something that's a little bit more specific for GME's actual price action here. Kilgore, you're a good dude. I appreciate you. AMA and T minus 7 minutes. Okay, so do I have time to make a video? I think so. When is the stock market, says Brendan Burns. The stock market exists solely in the time of your mind. It's the liminal space between puberty and adolescence. Brendan, you're asking such a good question that I don't even know what the answer is. When is the stock market? Okay, so GME. Gotta take a look at that suspicious options from Friday. Like, this doesn't just happen. Who is the stock market? Now Brendan is asking some real questions here. Okay. Hello from Greece, says Look Art Lilovas. I'm new in the stock market and I have a question. I'm holding 600 AMC shares. Is that enough, or would you suggest play with call options? As a reminder, call options can be manipulated with put conversions. So with that, you could. But two things to think about. One, it's kind of the selfish thing to do because you do stand to make a lot of money, especially if they're covered call options. But if you're selling a deep out of the money call option, for example, you might end up if you're selling call options. Did you say buy or sell? Yeah, you said play with. So I'm assuming if you sell a call option, for example, on Friday, if you were here and you sold $142,000 of call options, you're just helping a ape lose a bunch of money. Right? But you make money. So that's an option right there. The other side of it is that you could buy call options, but even if you buy them at the money, they could be converted into a put based on a previous video where we talked about the mechanics of put conversions. So that said, that the general advice is just buying and holding, right? But we never give advice here. We're not a financial advisor. Deep questions. How is the stock market? No one ever asks how. Why is the stock market? Let's see. Where is the stock market? I'm with Brian, but how could the stock market? How could the stock market? Huh. All right, let's take a look at this. How much money you could make with $10,000 in AMC. That's just a fun little video here, and then we'll go over to Superstonk's AMA because a bunch of you wanted to see that. Hold on. The problem with this news is that it's just so dry. Like, I'm trying to see if there's a better way to be able to cover this. Margin debt up another 30% in April. Then the other one that was like, hold on. Margin debt has exploded by 49% in 1 year. It's just yawn. What is AMC stock all about? Would anything make you richer faster? I believe GameStop would have made you more. Okay. Okay, let's do this real quick. AMC, ladies and gents, would anything make you more money if you invested $10,000? Hey, GME friends, do not go anywhere because the answer is gonna surprise you, actually. Would any other investment make you more money? GME might be on the table. So not many stocks would score you a 531% gain in just 5 months. This is just an exciting article. So it's been posted a couple of times. If you guys didn't know, there's a news section, a tab, and this one just keeps popping back up. And it's just an interesting question, right? If you were the roaring kitty for AMC and you bought into AMC deep down with $10,000, how much money would you make now? And is there anything else that is a better buy right today? So we talked about the potential for AMC in terms of the mainstream media giving you an idea that AMC is looking to skyrocket soon, but let's just see how much money that would be. $10,000 at the beginning of the year would have been $63,000 now, right? And this is before we talk about AMC's price trajectory from the past day and from the past weeks. A few weeks here looking at $10 from just a couple of weeks ago and up to $15 recently, thanks to at the market $500 million worth of brand new stocks getting issued here. So The same $10,000 would have been $9,600 on Apple and $8,500 on Tesla. So this was even worse, right? We read this article a few weeks ago, and for Tesla, this wasn't just a 15% dip. This was way worse than that. So if you guys are looking for a easy way to be able to understand when to buy and sell the dip, we got you covered. This is cheat code algorithm. Right, so we'd use this often. If you guys looked at Tesla, for example, you might have been able to take a look at the buy signals on the hourly. For example, this one right here. So you would have had a 4 out of 4 buy on Tesla that would have jumped you in at 580 all the way up to 612 and continuing onward. So that is in the description down below. I love to use it. It's easy for beginners and experts alike. But why all the love for AMC stock? Well, AMC is the new poster child in the rally in highly shorted stocks that took off in early 2021. It's taking the place of GME as the leader. That is how they divide you, ladies and gents. They're like, it's eclipsing GameStop. No, go to the comment section right now. Tell us which one you prefer. Tell me which one that you actually think has better squeeze potential. And now look at me in the eyes and say, those two are not distracting one from the other. It is important to be able to understand that they are going to squeeze together. Just look at the associated price action from this morning. Whether or not it was the bullish signal from GME or AMC, of which we both of which we covered during this past weekend on Saturday and Sunday, we've just been grinding out the bullish predictions because they're true. Look at this, 1 level of resistance, 1 level of retracement, 2 levels of resistance, 3, and topping out at 3 for AMC. This hesitancy here, this consolidation and the continuation is exactly how GME also performed in the beginning of the day, right? You just can't be able to write this. This is not fiction. This is just how it is. GME and AMC pulling each other up like the Bowie brothers there are, right? Buoying themselves up. Investors are emboldened as AMC took smart moves to stay afloat during the pandemic. That positions it to benefit from the economy's reopening, or so investors hope. We recognize that it will take AMC years to repay its debt burden and longer until it is able to revisit growth strategy, says Michael Pachter at Wedbush. We believe that the company has sufficient liquidity to allow it to survive with low utilization through at least the third quarter, now that most of its highest earning theaters have reopened. Essentially, Michael, over here, Michael, can I call you Michael? AMC is undervalued, right? It has way more potential. In fact, we even talked about AMC having the opportunity to get up to 2,000% more revenue in this coming quarter or this coming couple of months. Huge. This is insanity, and that's because the pandemic is closing down and these rebound stocks, including how GME is positioning itself as a rebound stock as well, could start climbing up the ladder. And if you already think that they have seen major rips so far, we haven't seen anything quite yet. AMC is a struggling movie theater chain. It's a difficult spot to be in, especially since people have streaming services. Gotcha. All right, that's enough FUD. AMC is trying to restructure itself to position for a digital era, but it's an uphill battle. AMC is seen losing an adjusted $1.4 billion or $3.49 a share in 2021. That's better than the $16.15 dollars a share it lost in 2020. Still, losing money is a big blow to the fundamental story that is AMC stock. Investors, though, are looking longer term. The company is paying down its $5.5 billion in long-term debt, and theaters are opening. Big Hollywood studios, too, are readying compelling films for release in theaters again. Revenue is set to hit $5.2 billion by 2023. That's just 5% shy of the $5.5 billion it posted in 2019. All right, so it's looking like the recovery story of all recovery stories. Even if there was no short squeeze, I think AMC would have been the poster child for a couple of movies just on the idea of, business, like entire MBA classes are going to be following AMC for a long time, just understanding where it's heading. On May 24th, AMC said one of its top shareholder groups, Wanda Group, we had a whole theory about what Wanda, SEC, and AMC is actually thinking about, has sold out nearly all of its position. Wanda is the company that bought all of AMC in 2012 and took it public in 2013. Now, no single shareholder owns more than 10% of the company, and that is how apes unite, right? We are collectively the whale, but no one of us is the silverback himself, unless you count Mr. Adam Aaron, the CEO of AMC. So AMC stock not in S&P 500, but how would it rank, right? That means that AMC stock's market value is worth $6.5 billion. It would rank number 497 within the S&P 500 of large cap stocks. But even so, it's not on the S&P 500. Come on, C's get degrees. That is within 500. S&P, get on it. Get AMC in there. If the company can turn it itself around and join the stock market index, large investors might be compelled to buy AMC stock. So that's the juicy news that you guys got by heading all the way down to the 7-minute mark. So congrats. If you guys don't see 1,700 likes on this video yet, comment out which like you are, and let's try to get it up there. Would anything make you richer faster? This is what you guys actually came to find out about. Only GT Biopharma, GTBP, Cassava Sciences, SAVA, and Novus Bio, ANVS, and GameStop would have made you more, right? GT would have made you 3,500%. GameStop was up 884%. So you would have nearly 100,000. You would have nearly 10x your money right now. And there's a whole article that says, should you invest in GameStop stock right now? So finally, right, people are saying that there's still a 98 IBD RS rating, right? There's relative price action, but this tells you that it's beating 98% of all other stocks in terms of price gains. So yeah, no, there really isn't many other stocks that would get you more money. So if you guys like that breakdown, hey, thanks to those of you who make this show possible, right? Those of you like, they're scrolling really fast, but you know who you are. Thank you guys for pressing that join button next to the subscribe button. And if you guys want your name somehow else, comment down below, right? You want it in the description, you want it pinned in a top comment as a random shout out, let me know so that we can honor you guys for supporting the show. Thank you guys once again, and we'll see you in the money. All right, I think it's time for some, what is this? We have a time for some super stonk, right? You guys want to see that? Only if you guys want to see that, because we covered 2 of the news stories that I wanted to cover today. So let's see where that super stonk video is right now. Trey's Meatball sub is in here. I like money. Wait. So let's see. Lucy Commissar, that just started 7 minutes ago. Let's see. If you guys promise to just at least give it 5 minutes of a hot chance, if you don't know what's happening, at least you have 5 minutes to consider it. Oh, it hasn't started yet. Well, good. I'm glad I didn't hurry. Random shout out, says Gen X Noob. Noob, you're getting a random shout out right now. But yeah, we'll get you one on one of these real videos too.
Wait, are you?
It is. It's past the time. They're just late, but that's okay. Some of us are late. This source, Ledex says, very informative. Yes, I agree. Let's see. If you're wondering, so Jack Ali is asking, if you're wondering why attack in the last hour and didn't stop it from getting to 188 in the first place, it's because they want apes to day trade the stock. They want you to get scared every day it goes up. Those of you who day trade the stocks, let's just get some scissors in the chat for you guys, right? Right? Like RIP. You tried your best, but day trading AMC or GME is one of the worst decisions possible. You don't want to do that, right? Not only for your bank account, but for the squeeze itself. You're hurting thousands of other apes. Can we say millions? Because we are international. You think there's millions of apes out there? Let's say at least 1 million apes. This is the 1 million ape march. Here it is. Kilgore wants his name embroidered on my sweater. You know, that's also not that difficult, actually. That's also because, you know, we have the ability to plug, for example, andrewmomoney.com. And so, like, there's new stuff, and it's all limited edition every time. So if you guys go to andrewmomoney.com, we could get Kilgore What does he want? Stenciled into my shirt? But it's 15% off right here, the one and only Moneyball Extra Comfy Hoodie. And some brand new mugs. Oh yeah, and that one too. The Gorillionaire. Yes, we're gonna get there. Drew 40's asking about what happened to GME. So we talked about GME's like pretty unsettling $63 million worth of puts. Right at 300. I mean, we've seen this before. Actually, I should start writing these down because I don't forget. So we saw this on like the 12th-ish, like beginning of May, first third of May. And then this is the last time that we saw more suspicious GME activity here. Ooh, is GME 1,000 even a thing? Yeah. I mean, that's like, I don't know. I don't think anybody's floor is just 1,000. Like, if you're thinking about selling at 1,000, you're probably, you're just afraid to get rich, unfortunately. I mean, we're not giving financial advice here. I'm not going to be televising my sells during the squeeze. Right away. I'm not going to be influencing anybody's decisions during the squeeze. It's a pure prisoner's dilemma, pure and simple. Right? I've already told you guys this. It's not up to one person to decide what the floor is. It's up to you. So you decide your own floor. But think about how much money would be life-changing, depending on how many shares you have. Holy crap, what's next says, I like snopsis, not synopsis. I don't think you spelled either of those right, but I'll bite. What is snopsis? Because I could really use some snopsis if I know what it is. Where do we find documentation that SEC suspended dark fibers? Well, here is the actual article called release number 3491790. And if you like that we do that kind of investigative journalism that you don't have to, and you want to see Meatball dab before Super Stonk starts, well, you know, go ahead. Oh, it's counting down. 3 more minutes. Alex Blunt is talking about Clay Bro. I don't think Clay Bro is okay, bro. Let's start the Clay Bro drama. Just kidding. And I've never seen a Clay Bro video, but not thinking there are any synthetic shares would basically fly in the face of all the research we've done so far. Wow, 0%, both for AMC and GME. Oh, okay. At least Webull's not broken. Tristan says, can you make an Andrew Bro Money shirt? Can I? What do you think an Andrew Bro Money shirt would look like? We'll save that idea. Andrew Bro Money shirt. Tristan Cates. We will, yeah, it'll be Andrew give you a fist bump, and then saying barrels, and what else does he say? I haven't watched a single PewDiePie video in such a long time. Oh, hey Andrew, says JP Stone. I have over 600 shares of AMC. Should you consider switching to Webull? Yeah, sure. So JP, I'm gonna give you the only advice that I can give you on this show, which is you should switch to off of Robinhood because they don't care about you. Congressional hearing, they proved it. They're like, yeah, we don't care about JP. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to JP. Robinhood doesn't care about you. Switch to Webull. Rip off the band-aid. Holy crap says, I got his attention. And that message here. Nick Gack, I was just joking. I don't know who Claybro is. I have a weird sense of humor. All right, 1 more minute until Super Stonk starts. So you guys said you wanted it, okay? I wouldn't stream it unless you guys said you wanted it. So for now, we're going to field any more questions. If it starts to get dry, you guys let me know. Throw some scissors in the chat if you want me to switch back to stocks and other analyses and other, I don't know, other ticker symbols that you guys care about. But this AMA should be pretty enlightening, and it's going to start soon. It'll start soon. Lucy Commissar, Investigative Journalist Part 2. Gucci flip-flops. Jessa is all in on Chanel. Make a Andrew my money, it's my money and I need it now. Okay, you guys are coming up with really good ideas. Andrew my money. Scott Jackman thinks it's probably Citadel. We could imagine that deep in the money puts are also Citadel and Melvin switching around stocks, but usually they're deep in the money calls, which is how the current theory of cycling out FTDs works. Memento Murray, that's a good name, by the way. My floor probably would have to be about 250K, I think. So one of these days, maybe this Friday or Wednesday, we're gonna do a full day's worth of live streaming. And so you guys better mark your clocks. If it's not gonna be this Wednesday, it's definitely this Friday. I'm gonna try to aim for Wednesday. Back to the full day of live streaming. And so you guys better be prepared for some crazy price action and put on your adult diapers or whatever you need because we're gonna stay all day. Your message came through way before your video showed up. Oh, you know what? You're right. I was told I should change latency to super fast, super low latency. Okay, I'm gonna have to remember to do that later. Trey says, do you think unicorns are actually battle horses? No, I believe they are not horses. I believe they're their own, like, god figure. Someone that's well versed on unicorns, let me know. Always tell people to sell low. Yeah, that's the strategy here. Selling low. How could it go wrong? The Harry Texan says, I'm curious about switching now with all the bullish action. Seems precarious. It does, and we can't give you a guarantee that it's not going to be like a terrible time to switch. It's just that if you don't switch now, you're going to be really upset when more bullish indicators show up. For example, right, 13% on AMC. This is just this is basically old news. It's basically old news here. Like 13% up on AMC's price action. Well, look how many times, even during after hours, we're pushing against that the same level of resistance. This is ready to blow, right? This is a ascending level of support up here from AMC and hitting the exact same highs each time. It's consolidating its price actions to make a clear and compelling, let's see it blow after hours or during pre-market tomorrow, because this is a bunch of bulls and a bunch of apes coming together and thinking, I need to blow. I need to get this price action up. Yeah, that's not fair, Jeremy. Jeremy, you're right. Once we get to 1,000 likes, maybe once Meatball starts to dab, you will we'll be able to up that view count here. It's to be able to get more people through the door, because battling the algorithm, like all of you said, right? Throw some scissors in the chat right now if you guys didn't get a notification from me going live, even though this schedule was up like 3 hours ago. No me gusta tu estrategia de inversión. Oh. Why no te gusta? What is my conservative estimate for the current number of phantom shares for AMC? I would say at least, like, my very conservative estimate is that, well, look at the FTDs yourself. Where's that? Here. Right, 200,000. 500,000. 2.3 million. 2 million. 2 million here. 2 million here. And then you go over to Ortex and you actually take a look at the number of counted SI. That's only 80 million. So we have somewhere between 200,000 to like 3.5 million throughout all of April. They're counting the same within like a 21 to 35 day cycle, and there's also going to be some overlap and conflation. But overall, you're looking at least this much SI in phantom shares. Like, consider the sum of all these numbers for 21 days. That might not be a bad estimate. But again, it's not about how much. It's more about just knowing that the counting is wrong. The math is wrong, and that hurts my head, but you have to understand that this is just the system that the short whales are taking advantage of. They're not too dumb, but they're just dumb enough to lose this fight. Unicorns are anorexic rhinos. Big brain move. Si se puede, ganbarimasu. I'm just really just butchering every language I can today. One thing I'm concerned about, says Jojisaurus, is all of the bandwagon buyers we're going to likely getting on board who will paper hand early in the squeeze. And that's true. Like, we are going to see some major paper handing, and this is just fact. We saw this in the January squeeze. We saw this in the March squeeze. We probably saw a good amount of that during AMC's dip last week because of hashtag AMC squeeze trending #1, right? As much as we love the attention, it's a double-edged sword. And it ends up being, how many people can we get back in through the revolving door of, because most of the traders are going to be the same. If you were influenced by AMC this time around, you're not going to suddenly turn like 18 or 21 or some important age and then suddenly decide that you need to be able to get into the AMC squeeze this time around, right? Through 4 different hypes for both GME and AMC, we're going to basically compact bulls into apes one round after another. And the more people that actually end up finding this video and videos like this, the better. Look at so many of these scissors here. Yikes. Look at those scissors. Too many people. YouTube is just preventing all of the notifications. Not very fair. What can we do? All right, margin debt. Let's do this margin debt video real quick, because apparently we are taking a look at GME's. Can I take a look at GME's FTDs? Oh, so this is still April data, but it breaks it down to the ETF level too. But it doesn't have a like composite number, which is annoying. I guess it would be confusing to have a composite number here. So FTDs here, and then GME overall above 20%. See if there's a news there. Nope. So it's trending above its own VWAP here, and then this crash right here essentially had no reason tanking below its EMA directly through its VWAP and directly through another level of support here. That's 3 very difficult price levels to be able to like break below, and it did so like butter, like a flash crash. That's why it's now we have to put our investigative journalism hats on. Will SEC get sued if they shut down trading AMC? They're not going to. I don't know why they would. Remember, the SEC didn't do anything, which is probably the reason why we're mad at them. But they didn't do anything the first time around. This time around, they might. Trading halts are automatic. That's an important thing to remember, is that they're supposed to prevent from both sides too much momentum from messing up the markets, essentially. So it's not like the SEC is like has a man with a button and goes like. Anthony Fernandez says they're approached as aggregates. Thank you. Where are my data friends out? Data kings. Throw some data in the chat. What is the data emoji? There's only date. Yeah, throw dates in the chat. Let's see. Oh, I'm at 1,000 likes. Great. Okay, so now we are going to watch. Okay, so we are at 1,000 likes, which means Meatball. I've never seen him dab inside this QB, little cubby here. Let's try and see if he will. I need some legit treats here for him to dab. Hold on, can I move this? Focus on Meatball, please. There we go. Okay, bud. Okay. For all the marbles. You guys ready? Boy, we dab? Yeah. Got it, yes. He doesn't have a lot of room, so he has to be able to put his hand above his head.
I think he needs to back up.
Yeah, but then he wouldn't be on frame. One sec. Dab. You're doing a good job. Dab. Yeah, dab. Close? You're so close. You're so close, buddy. You're doing a good job. Dab. Dab.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, that's almost it. Almost it. He doesn't have a lot of room, so he's just kind of like dabbing like a tiny dab. 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 Yeah, that's good. I'll take that. Good boy. All right. That's 1,000 likes right there. If you guys have better ideas of like fun stuff that we can do at certain landmarks, let me know, because that's just a fun minute-long Meatball adventure that we had. Okay, CEOs of major banks testifying this week, margin debt at all-time high. I just think that this is so boring, but it's important to report on, but it is so boring. Good boy. He's a data Meatball. Andy A says this floor is like 80K or something. That's fine. Ooh, Harry, yeah, we're gonna have 8-bit come on the show right after he's done with Suzanne Trimbath. So yeah, we're gonna have an exclusive show about the second House of Cards DD. Freaking trained. First dog he's ever seen dab. Philippe, that's what's worth it. Meatball, sign my yearbook. Oh yeah, Meatball, here's some more treats. Here's some more kibble. Is he the model for Doge? There's a resemblance for sure. Hashtag shorts, hashtag Meatball. AMA starting. Alright guys. Let's get going. Oh, is this Red Queen or is this pink? Hold on.
You touched on it in your last AMA, but I want you to go ahead and just get right into it for the sake of time and give us a little bit of history of the SEC.
So this is a story of the corrupt SEC. After the stock market crash in 1929, there was a meme that was heard. He who sells what isn't his'n must buy it back or go to prison. And this was a very important matter for the time because many people believe that this was the first example of naked short selling. It was called watering the stock because what people did was they made stock certificates, because instead of digital at that time, the shares were in stock certificates, and they made counterfeit stock certificates and sold them, and it was called watering the stock. Remember that? Watering the stock. And therefore, that is believed to have promoted the market collapse, the stock market collapse of 1929, and that started, many people believe that started the Depression. And so what did the U.S. government do? Well, Ferdinand Pecora was an immigrant working class kid from Sicily who put himself through New York Law School. He was hired in 1932 by the Senate Banking Committee to investigate the causes of the crash, to do a whitewash, of course, based on what those congressmen wanted, but he didn't get the memo. His hearings exposed such practices as pools to support bank stock prices, such as let's all coordinate trades to pump up the stock. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Like in GameStop? National City Bank, now Citibank, had hidden bad loans by packaging them into securities and selling them off to unwary investors. Does that sound familiar? Remember mortgage-backed securities that tanked and that the sellers knew were going to tank? That was what he was looking into. The findings of the Pecora Commission exposing the corruption of the financial system industry led to public support for regulation. It took really dirty stuff to move the public, which would be the regulations that came out, the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933. That separated investment banking from retail banking, banning bankers from using depositors' money for their own high-risk investments. The Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which set up the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. So Pecora wrote a wonderful memoir, Wall Street Under Oath. He said, bitterly hostile was Wall Street to the enactment of the regulatory legislation. But the thieves don't want rule of law. About disclosure rules, he said that had there been full disclosure of what was being done in furtherance of these schemes, they could not long have survived the fierce light of publicity and criticism. Legal chicanery and pitch darkness were the bankers' stoutest allies. Think about who are the bankers' stoutest allies today. Franklin Roosevelt appointed Joseph Kennedy, father of Jack and Robert, to be SEC chair. He had built the family fortune on stock manipulation, financial manipulation, but Roosevelt thought he knew where the bodies were buried. He knew who the miscreants were. And so for about 5 years, the SEC cleaned up the Wall Street Augean stables for about 5 years. Then Kennedy's buddies of the financial oligarchy took charge again in early regulatory capture. Let's move fast forward about 50 years.
I did not know that Jack Kennedy
to 1985.
had
With
that.
the support of friends in Congress, Wall Street had neutered the Securities Acts by assuring that the SEC would not enforce them. But corruption was sometimes a little inconvenient, too much in your face. So in 1985, the National Association of Securities Dealers, now FINRA, which represents the brokers, hired Irving Pollock, a former SEC commissioner, who was honest, to look at short selling. Among his report's proposals, reporting of short interest, that is the amount of sales shorted but not yet covered. He said they should be public and perhaps reported more frequently. A borrow for delivery in broker-dealer transactions should be required. A mandatory buy-in should be adopted for delivery after a reasonable period when there has been a fail. That means the broker for the buyer who hasn't gotten the shares would buy them on the market and charge the broker for the seller.
Okay, so hold on a second. Jack Kennedy was in 1934. So this is back in 34. They were already talking about this.
Short's not yet covered. Did the SEC adopt these proposals with great enthusiasm? Obviously not. Short interest is not reported frequently. The broker-dealers locate instead of borrow, and we know they don't really locate, or they use counterfeit shares. Now, buy-ins were allowed, but not required. And Leslie Bonney, an academic, in 2004, did a paper for the SEC on buy-ins, and she said they were rare. But requiring buy-ins would make the stock go up. Short sellers would lose money. That was not on the SEC agenda. And there was no surveillance of large short interest positions. In fact, corruption would be increased thanks to the friends of Wall Street, President Bill Clinton, and his collaborator, Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin, who had come from Goldman and would be rewarded by a multi-million-dollar position as an advisor to Citibank. They, in 1999, killed the Glass-Steagall Act, which had separated investment banking from retail banking. Retail banks till then could not use depositors' funds for risky investments. People had lost everything when the banks collapsed in 1929, and only 10% of their income could come from selling securities. That was done away with, so the crooked banks and broker-dealers had nobody stopping them. That set the stage for the last very corrupt decades. The SEC was battered with complaints again. So in July 2004, it promulgated Reg Show. Show is for short selling. The hedge funds and big brokers who had been or would be shown to be illegally shorting all lobbied against it. And the end result was a very tepid reform of short selling that was a Swiss cheese of loopholes. Think of Al Capone writing the tax laws. On the other hand, his crooked progeny do write the tax laws. Reg Show would be implemented in 2005. The SEC knocked out a proposal of penalties for failing to deliver that told the brokers everything they needed to know. And it wrote two giant exceptions into Reg Show: ex-clearing and market makers. The rule didn't apply to ex-clearing. That means clearing trades outside the DTCC, the Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, which is a national stock clearing company. Yes, it's a private company and it's owned by the big broker-dealers. It applied only to trades going through a registered clearing agency, i.e., what got sent through the DTCC. And because the SEC said ex-clearing was rare, why worry about that?
I wonder if she wrote this. I'm sure she did, but like chicanery, tepid, and crooked progeny. These are all great words so far.
Brokers reporting the fails to the DTCC or buying in, requiring the short sellers, brokers to buy the shares on the market. So this was a get out of jail free card. And it was to protect short sellers and help them avoid a Reg Show. The dealers just went ex-clearing. They either cleared internally. If you're a huge Goldman or Morgan Stanley, you've got enough customers inside the bank to clear trades, or with a cooperating broker-dealer, or they went through dark pools. Dark pools were the private exchanges set up by the big prime brokers and banks. Al Capone could never have done something so sophisticated. The major perpetrators, the perps, are the large banks doing it for large clients, hedge funds, or for their own accounts. If they can do the transaction privately, ex-clearing, Reg Show doesn't apply. Guess what percentage of trades now go through dark pools? 40%. It doesn't sound rare to me. If a trade fails ex-clearing, it doesn't fail at the DTCC. Easy to do naked shorting. It never fails. Reg Show also didn't apply to derivatives, the financial casino bets acknowledged as a prime cause of the 2008 crisis, and which also did not trade through a clearinghouse. Even stocks that cleared through the DTCC were not always covered. The brokers got a grandfather clause that allowed existing fails to continue, and brokers didn't have to close out the shares they had sold short before the stock went on the threshold list. That is a list of shares that for 5 consecutive settlement days had fails to deliver of 10,000 shares or more at a clearing agency, and where the level of fails was equal to at least 0.5% of the issuer's outstanding shares. But the brokers were subject to mandatory covering only on the 5th day. Then the broker-dealer had 13 days to deliver the shares to the buyer or the lender, and if it failed to do so, it could not trade that stock until it did. But the SEC knew, because staff wrote a paper on it, how options conversions allowed the broker-dealers to put off fail dates forever. It was all a charade. They made up shares, they used them for borrowing, for covering, they were fake, it was all a charade. The other exception was for market makers who make a market in particular stocks so people can always buy and sell them. Reg Show allowed an options market maker exception. It was called after the person who designed and pushed for it, the Madoff exception. Did I say the crooks wrote the rules? In prison in 2012, Madoff told Forbes journalist Diana Enriquez, "I fell into my crime of staying naked short. The fact that the prosecutor and trustee seem clueless of this is why my frustration is so great." Clueless or complicit, you just don't go there. As if that wasn't enough, the SEC in 2007 eliminated the Uptick rule. That required short sales to be conducted at a higher price than the previous trade. Not helpful if the purpose is to batter down the stock price. It was never really enforced anyway, but just gives you a clue of how they thought they could get away with anything. They're going backwards. Then we have stock lending, which is taking care of the banks. According to the SEC Office of Economic Analysis, in 2008, Reg Show, which had been in effect for 3 years, had not reduced outstanding fails. Many stocks remained on the Reg Show threshold list for hundreds of trading days. How could that be? Remember the rules about 5 and 13? That wasn't a bug, it was a feature. For years, the SEC claimed naked short selling and fails to deliver were not a problem. Once things began to go sour in 2008, remember the crashes, and big banks were targeted, Bear Stearns, Lehman, the first thing the SEC did was ban naked short selling in 17 financial stocks, plus the mortgage lending agencies, Fannie and Freddie. It was ironic, since the big banks, brokers, had been carrying out the scam on others, but they were hoist on their own petard, you might say. And they chose the solution that people battling naked short selling had advocated for years. A July 2008 order said no traders could make trades involving those institutions, the 17, unless they had pre-borrowed the security or otherwise had it available in their inventory. They had to deliver the security on the settlement date. Borrow shares before you sell them. Before you sell them short, stop the counterfeiting. All the regs that came out were because naked shorting, the counterfeiting of shares, was undermining the banks. The SEC went from nothing is happening till the fall of 2008 that the market is coming apart because of naked shorting. There were some slight improvements made in 2008 on paper for everybody, but on paper.
Carlo, dark pools are suspended until they are contested, so it's pretty much indefinitely until SEC decides to change their mind.
Levels of fails had continued in threshold securities, and a significant number were the result of market maker exceptions. But they still had 6 days to settle, and so you have market makers failing and rolling over their shares every 5.5 days, just rolling it over to some other broker-dealer or a bank. Easy to do. Everybody's in on this deal. The grandfather provision on threshold securities was eliminated. Unless its position in threshold securities was closed, a broker-dealer couldn't effect further shorts in them without borrowing or arranging to borrow the securities. Don't worry, they finessed that, moving the trades between broker-dealers using fake options conversions that they had perfected. They had many ways to get around these rules. Now, the amendments addressed fake borrows. It said where a broker-dealer entered into an arrangement with another party to purchase or borrow securities, and the broker-dealer knew or had reason to know that the other party would not deliver in the settlement of the trade, the purchase or borrow would not be bona fide. But, and it repeated that the NSCC, the National Securities Clearing Corporation, which is a DTCC subsidiary, clears and
Lurking, it's only dark fibers, not pools. If I misspoke, apologies.
Conducted on the exchanges and in the over-the-counter market. Well, they don't mention. The rules still don't apply to X-clearing and the dark pools. The X-clearing route to naked short selling was protected. Fails could be concealed at the start by not reporting them to the NSCC, the clearinghouse. In fact, the dealers could use X-clearing to opt out of fails from trades through the exchanges. They could take them on to their own books and deal with the fails as they chose. And that meant they would do nothing. They would just let the fails sit there, and the SEC would do nothing about it. It allowed this. Protecting the interests of the big banks, brokerages, the SEC did not include a hard borrow, a hard locate requirement in its amendments to the reg show. And there's an interesting backstory here.
I wonder if this was her first AMA as well. Is this not answering any questions, but just preparing a lecture, and then the host doesn't say anything either?
The backstory involved former Delaware Senator Ted Kaufman, who recently ran Joe Biden's post-election transition team. It shows how the big stock market players and the institutions they control have blocked attempts to deal with naked short selling. Kaufman was Biden's longtime chief of staff, and he was named to the Senate seat vacated by his boss when Biden became Barack Obama's vice president.
Barack Obama's.
When, after the 2008 market meltdown that included abusive naked short selling of Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, Kaufman, a Democrat, and Georgia Senator Johnny Isaacson, a Republican, introduced legislation that directed the SEC to write regulations to end naked short selling. They determined that the SEC's regulations were unenforceable. Hedge funds could spread rumors, do massive shorts without locating, deliver after the prices dropped, which they had encouraged to drop. In July of 2009, Kaufman and 6 colleagues from both parties wrote the SEC proposing a hard locate that would ban all short sales unless the executing broker first obtained a unique identification number for the shares that were being borrowed, perhaps through an automated centralized system. This would prevent multiple short sales on the basis of a single share. Yeah, we located that share, and so did the other one, and so did the other guy, and so did our partner over at Goldman, the same share. According to Jeff Connaughton, who was then Kaufman's chief of staff, months before the letter, the DTCC, the clearing agency, had gone to the SEC with a proposed solution to naked short selling that looked like Kaufman's, looked like that solution, with the DTCC creating a centralized database that would prevent the same shares from being used for multiple trades, multiple short sales. They were concerned because their stock borrow program was not getting much in the way of paying clients. But the DTCC told Connaughton later, we got pulled back. They meant, Connaughton said, by their board, by the Wall Street powers that be, that's Connaughton's words. Because in the case of the DTCC, as well as the SEC, Wall Street controls the regulators. Kaufman continued to try to fight naked short selling in the Dodd-Frank debate. The SEC was ordered by the Dodd-Frank law of 2010 to require more transparency in short selling and stock lending. 11 years later, it still ignores that order. And nobody from Congress has reminded them about that. Even the recent...
Hellshy says, I'm crying laughing. This is like mob level corruption. She's dragging her feet. They never bring up who approved all these synthetics. Okay. I feel like the DTCC's approving synthetics was like baked into the actual creation of synthetic shorts. But we'll cover that in a second.
A couple of cases. In 2003, the Sedona Badian story. Sedona case where the Badian brothers from Vienna ran a death spiral financing scheme that involved providing a loan that would be repaid in shares. But then they did a massive shorting attack that knocked down the price of the shares. So went from $6 to 20 cents. The SEC filed a complaint against Thomas Badian and his company Rhino for fraud and market manipulation of Sedona shares. Badian and Rhino immediately settled with the SEC for a $1 million fine without admitting or denying guilt. The $1 million was a pittance, the cost of doing business. The company was destroyed. And the irony, in 2006, the SEC filed a civil suit against Andreas Badian, 4 officials of Pond Equities, and a trader at Refco, all involved directly in the naked shorting, but not against Ladenburg Thalmann, the very high-profile broker-dealer, owned by billionaire investor Carl Icahn and a partner that facilitated the whole deal and many other death spiral financing deals.
Bill Verman is saying, do I believe there's going to be a pseudo squeeze? We've already seen several, and they're not pseudo squeezes. They're just not the mother of all short squeezes. So we've seen gamma squeezes. We've seen like attempts at faking out the squeeze, but it's going to be pretty obvious. And you know, staying tuned to the channel is an easy way to figure out if it's a real squeeze.
He came, Eagle Tech and the inventor, the target of a group of death spiral financing criminals working with Solomon Smith Barney in New York. 5 Solomon officers and a group of investors offering to buy convertible preferred shares from Eagle Tech for up to $6 million. The loan convertible into shares, as in the Sedona death spiral financing. Then they did a pump and dump. So the stock went up to $14 and then dropped to 75 cents, reducing the market value by about 113 million. The stock finally went to 2 cents. The FBI was investigating some organized crime stock fraudsters. It busted 17 mob members, led by the crooks that ran the scheme against Eagle Tech. The SEC filed suit against John Sarubo, Tonino Labella, and their colleagues, collaborators, their henchmen, who ran the scam that got control of Eagle Tech stock. It said they generated in excess of $12.7 million from the sale of the stock. and members of the Solomon Smith Barney financing team and their options market makers in Chicago were selling shares and then failing to deliver. But Cerubo, Labella, and the others, mobsters, would be banned from penny stock trading in order to pay back the ill-gotten gains and fines. I couldn't find any notice of any penalties against the Solomon Smith Barney team or their Chicago options market maker collaborators. But it's always good to go after the mob.
No.
This part of the story is the hardest to believe.
Sometimes you die.
The SEC filed suit against Eagle Tech, the victim, to deregister its shares because it couldn't afford several $100,000 to file audited financial reports. The delisting is like a bankruptcy. All the investors are wiped out. The naked shorters never have to cover. The SEC finished what the mob started. It killed the company. Then go to 2007, Goldman. From at least March of 2000 to May 2002, that's more than 2 years, Goldman Clearing used the firm's direct market access automated trading system that allowed them to trade directly in the market to unlawfully sell securities short in advance of follow-on and secondary offerings of new shares they would be able to get cheaper. But what they did was illegal. They did not borrow or locate. They prepared their own sell orders on the direct access terminals that Goldman gave them and falsely marked short sales as long. The orders were routed directly to the New York Stock Exchange and other markets for execution. Goldman Clearing's own records had information that customers were selling securities short, and they were misrepresenting their short sales as long. Goldman Clearing's record showed that the customers were repeatedly failing to deliver the securities that they were purported to sell long. So for more than 2 years of allowing shorts to be marked as longs, Goldman had to pay civil money penalty of, wait for it, $1 million.
What?
The SEC, okay, let's go to another one.
Another one.
The Options Express. Options Express was a subsidiary of Charles Schwab, repeatedly engaged in sham transactions known as resets, designed to give the appearance of having bought shares to close out an open fail, while in fact not doing so. Options Express had its customers buy shares and simultaneously sell call options that were the equivalent of selling shares short. The purchase of shares created the illusion that the firm had covered the short. However, the shares were never actually delivered.
And this is actually a cycling out the FTDs that we've talked about a long time. So
same
she's
day,
talking about it right now.
The calls were exercised, effectively reselling the shares. So this gets complicated, but it's sort of a wash trade. You do one thing and then you do the opposite and you end up with zero. The purpose was to perpetuate an open short position, but it was a fake. So how did that work? In 2009, 6 Options Express customers bought $5.7 billion worth of securities and sold short about $4 billion of options. They did this to a couple of dozen companies. In January 2010, the customers who did the scam accounted for 48% of the daily volume of trading in Sears stock. In the end, Options Express had to pay $4 million in penalties. Didn't I just say something about billions? It was the cost of doing business. That's all the SEC asked them to do. Now, there are some good people in the SEC, even if the people at the top are very questionable. And here are some interesting insider stories. The story of Gary says it all.
The Gary.
As a student at Georgetown Law School, Aguirre got a prize from the SEC for a paper on Wall Street corruption,
Gary.
as detailed in the Pecora hearings that led to passage of the Securities Act of 1933. He would walk in Ferdinand Pecora's footsteps. In September 2004, Aguirre started as a senior counsel at the SEC Division of Enforcement. The SEC in July had just promulgated Reg Show, which it said would stop abusive naked short selling. So Aguirre recalled, "The first thing I noticed is there seemed to be a deference to the large law firms who represented Wall Street players. And there were a lot of..."
She's talking about Gary Gensler, the current head of the SEC. Look at this little beautiful breakout from this wedge here. We're looking at AMC's price action currently taking a trip back up to 1393 due to this bullish wedge.
A powerful Wall Street insider, John Mack. He had been the head of the hedge fund Pequot Capital Management. The suspicion was that Mack had tipped the current CEO, Arthur Samberg, of General Electric's pending acquisition of Heller Financial. Mack was the only suspect. And without an investigation, the SEC would never be able to consider filing insider trading charges against Mack or Samberg or Pequot or anyone else arising out of Pequot's trading in GE and Heller. So this was the investigation that Aguirre was assigned to. The SEC did not want that investigation. An SEC official told Aguirre it would be very difficult to take Mack's testimony because of his political influence. He told him that Mack was, quote, an industry captain, that he had powerful contacts, that Mary Jo White could contact a number of powerful individuals, any of whom could call Linda about the examination. Mary Jo White was a lawyer at a Wall Street firm. Linda was Linda Thompson, the head of enforcement. Aguirre confirmed the conversation with this official in 2 emails the next morning. And the first email referenced Ferdinand Pecora.
See you, Fabio.
The senior officials in the SEC's Division of Enforcement, run by Linda Thompson, blocked an SEC subpoena seeking Mack's testimony and records for the investigation. Then Aguirre had contacted the Office of Special Counsel to discuss the filing of a complaint about the SEC's protection of Mack. 3 days later, September 1st, 2005, while on vacation, Aguirre was fired by phone. He gave...
Gary. I hope she's still talking about Gary Gensler because she hasn't said Gensler at all. We're about 37 subscribers away from 82,000. If that does happen, we will have Meatball dab once more, which is a fun little trick here. At 8,000 subscribers away until our 90K subscriber swag giveaway. All subscribers are going to be eligible to get some cool swag.
As Morgan Stanley's CEO, with no danger of an SEC lawsuit for insider trading. Mary Jo White would become chair of the SEC in 2013 to 2017, appointed by Wall Street's favorite guy, Barack Obama, who apparently didn't know the Aguirre story. Later, David Kotz, the SEC Inspector General, said he had found evidence that, quote, raised serious questions about the impartiality and fairness, end quote, of the SEC's investigation of possible insider trading at the Pequot Capital Management hedge fund. He said also, he condemned what he considered the common, quote, common practice of giving outside lawyers access to high-level SEC officials when they had complaints about their clients' complaints about frontline investigations. Kotz made numerous recommendations for reform, which the SEC, of course, ignored. Aguirre sued the SEC and won $750,000 in back pay and damages. And Mac, after being CEO of Morgan Stanley, became CEO of Credit Suisse, then chair of Morgan Stanley, and now is senior advisor to the global investment firm Kohlberg Kravis Roberts, whose strategic partners are hedge funds. Here's another story. This was 2005. It's a man named Ficus who worked for the SEC and Overstock, and Chris Cox, who was the chair of the SEC.
Ficus?
This is Ficus, an SEC staffer who tried to do the right thing, but was pulled back. In August of 2005, Overstock filed a suit against hedge fund rocker partners, and the equities research firm Gradient Analytics, saying they illegally colluded in short-selling the company while paying for negative reports to drive down share prices. The CEO of Overstock, Patrick Byrne, took his information to Mark Ficus of the SEC San Francisco office. Byrne said, look at the patterns. Their stocks are naked shorted by Dan Loeb, David Einhorn, Stephen Cohn, David Rocker. Those were the big shorters. Look at the dates. Journalists Bethany, Boyd, Raymond, Greenberg wrote trash jobs. That was Bethany McLean, writing for Forbes, Carol Raymond for Dow Jones, Roddy Boyd for the New York Post, Herb Greenberg for MarketWatch. Byrne said it was the same pattern. Each one of those journalists writes a hatchet job. There is naked shorting. The SEC begins action against these firms, and the Milberg-Weiss lawsuit comes. In every case, it's part of the same bum rush on the stock. The Milberg lawsuits involve their paying shills to buy stock, then suing the company when the price went down. Several Milberg lawyers went to prison for that. So the SEC would go after the lawyers, but you'll see they don't go after the companies or the brokers. Byrne argued that Gradient, an investment advisor, which he said was putting out fraudulent reports the shorters used, should be investigated, and that the journalists were central to the case. The subpoenas were issued to Carol Raymond of Dow Jones and Herb Greenberg of MarketWatch to provide information about conversations they had with stock traders and with analysts. Now, Ficus issued the subpoenas with the approval of the SEC's head of enforcement, Linda Thompson. It was announced that the SEC was investigating Gradient and had issued subpoenas to Carol Raymond and Herb Greenberg, and also to Jim Cramer of The Street. Patrick Byrne said David Rocker sold his shares in The Street. He said a month later, Cramer sold some of his shares in The Street. And he asked a question, which I found interesting. Why would a hedge fund have an interest in owning a financial publication? Cramer discloses in his books stuff that is wildly illegal, Patrick Byrne said. Now, protection for journalists is about protecting sources, about stories they are writing, not about their own possible market manipulation. The question is whether freedom of the press extends to reporters whose articles are part of illegal naked short selling scams. Ficus wanted to know, but he was summoned to Washington to meet with the new SEC chair, Chris Cox. Ultimately, Byrne said the SEC caved under the media pressure. Cox killed the subpoenas, and the SEC dropped its investigation of Gradient. Cox, by the way, was also the SEC chair when Gary Aguirre was fired. After this long history of regulatory capture by Wall Street, what should the SEC do now to reclaim its reputation, if it can? The solutions are there if it wants to protect investors and stop taking orders from the big broker-dealers and the hedge funds. But it's mostly the big broker-dealers. They run the show. One, require buy-ins. Require the broker of the investor who doesn't get shorted stock delivered to buy it on the market and charge the seller's broker. Of course, require buy-ins. But that would make the stock go up. The shorters would lose money. Not really on the agenda. Restore the Uptick rule so shorters cannot sell for less than the last shorted trade. That would stop shorters from hammering a stock down to bankruptcy. Create a consolidated audit trail, CAT, to collect order and trade execution information to identify and enable punishment of illegal trading activities, including naked short selling. More than a decade after the SEC promised to create a CAT following the 2010 flash crash, CAT does not exist. Impose real penalties on serial transgressors, like loss of license, ban from trading. At the top, not the lower level guys. Send cases of egregious trading cheats to the Justice Department for criminal action, prosecution. And of course, end the revolving door with Wall Street. What will Gary Gensler do? And will he listen most to the big brokers or to investors, including the people on Superstock? That's the question for all of us to answer, but it is so important for the people out there to understand this long history of SEC corruption.
Absolutely, and that was a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Lucy.
Pink got to talk,
and that's a great segue into the questions from the community. We've been trying to get the attention of the SEC, and we've been getting louder and louder. So I think that you can provide a lot of guidance for us on what we can do in an official capacity to start ringing our bells and get that attention, to get this. You mentioned this started in 1932. And here we are in 2021. So for almost 100 years, this has been a cancer within our financial system that has been completely not only ignored, but protected by a lot of really big entities. And I think we're all starting to open our eyes to that. So thank you for some of that history. And that takes us into some of our community questions. So I wanted to start with, in your last AMA, you mentioned that naked short selling scams started a long time ago, like we were just saying, but it ends with GameStop in your book. So can you expand and clarify a little bit further what you meant by that?
Well, I meant that my book would end with GameStop because it is it's an iconic event. But of course, it's all still going on now. Naked short selling, the corruption has not stopped. But the book I am writing will start back when I started with the crash, and we'll take it up to GameStop. Whether this ends is really up to the public. The public got really angry at the crash, the depression, and that's what started the legislation. The public has to get very angry for members of Congress to do anything now.
And I think that's happening. The more that we learn and the more we have our experts come on and speak and teach us, I think that we're all collectively getting more angry at how the system's been allowed to continue for so long. And so even if it doesn't end with GameStop, naked short selling doesn't end with GameStop in your book, it's a great climax, I think. And it is a good story. So we'll go to the next question. This user was asking if it was possible for the hedgies and the government to pull any kind of trickery to make this squeeze not happen. Are there any rules that they're unwilling or unable to break?
Trickery, that's nice.
Yeah, they're willing to break all the rules. Look at the history. They will figure out a way to finesse any kind of legislation. But so it takes some very smart people and committed people to make that not happen, because we've seen what's gone on for nearly 100 years. They will find any way they can. Look, these are really criminals. They're doing things that are illegal. If you do something illegal, it makes you a criminal. But they've gotten away with it because they pay off people, they buy Congress, and that's been the problem for all of these years.
Especially, it sounds like since the 90s. It really kicked into high gear in the 90s in your story. So for most of a lot of Apes' lives, we have a lot of millennials that that's all we know is this corruption. So we have this user who essentially was asking in a really busy world where a lot of us don't have time to find a good trustworthy source of information. How do you recommend, where do you recommend people find a digestible news source for those that don't have time to watch whole hearings or read full bills?
Yeah.
Well, there are some places I go to that aggregate. There's one called Naked Capitalism that focuses a lot on economics, and so I look at that, and they link to other things. But you have to just spend a lot of time looking for the online places. For the most part, I would forget about the mainstream media and certainly the mainstream broadcasters, because they will never tell you anything. And they're owned by some of the people that are the miscreants. So, but you just have to go and find places that are going to tell you, and that's one of them that I have used. But there are others too.
Excellent. And like you mentioned earlier, we have legislation that's essentially protecting the media whenever they tell these little stories, like we've seen with Market Watch during the GME saga. We've seen some funny things happen with timing when things were posted and things like that. So, but it sounds like that they're protected by the legislation in place. So, looks like we may have lost Lucy. Are we still there, Lucy?
Still there, Lucy? Okay, so far she said that they're willing to break all the rules. Basically, no rules.
Looks like we may have some more technical difficulties. Bear with us.
No rules for hedgies. That's a really bad HF. No rules. Mainstream media is equal to the miscreants that pay them off. All right. And this is kind of similar to the message that we were trying to give Mr. Ro Khanna, which is like, there's a very clearly problematic, like, criminal challenge for us to face. And I'm not sure as an investigative journalist that she has presented a ton of solutions, even though blowing this case wide open would definitely be part of the solution process. I'm pretty sure if a congressperson looked at this and they'd be like, yep, that's bad. How do we actually solve this? Look at this ascending level of support here for AMC, right? Trending along its EMA as like clockwork, each time touching the EMA and getting higher and higher. This level is continuing
on. Looks like Lucy had some more technical difficulties, but if you are still with us, she went over a lot in Reg Show. In 2004, sounds like Reg Show is something that never really took off. And if one of the questions that we were going to be asking had to do with the hearings that
was another Gary. Which Gary was she
Congress
talking about?
Congress is interviewing megabank executives this week. Okay, so there's two different hearings. I believe one is on May 26th and one on May 27th.
Right. So if you guys want me to stream that, scissors in the chat right there, and I'll show up early Wednesday morning to stream that megabank testimony.
These questions. If they would be asking the correct questions. And since we did kind of discuss this privately, I will go ahead and share with you what her opinion on this was. She believes that all of this, the GME hearings that earlier back in March, the one in February where Keith Gill testified, they are all just political theater and they're not really getting to the bottom of it. Lucy had shared her opinion before that naked short selling was like hardly even mentioned during the congressional hearings.
That's true.
And so it's hard to put something in the title and then not discuss it. So she's of a very strong opinion that all of this is just political theater, and that so far we've not been able to push to real change and real legislative change. Hopefully we can change that. I know that she previously expressed some gratitude, and she was very impressed with what we've been able to do at Superstonk, and the verified information that we get, that we compile and that we provide to the community free of charge. There's no paywall. There's no membership. You don't even have to join Superstonk to be able to access this information. She commended us for that and said that in the absence of mainstream journalism, that we were doing an excellent job at getting this message out. And so at the time that she said that, we were at about 275,000 members. I think last I checked, we were at maybe 315,000, I believe. So word is getting out. And I even saw where GameStop liked a tweet about this AMA today. So hello, GameStop. Hello, Chairman Cohen. So let's go on to this next question that I didn't really get to talk to Lucy in a lot of detail about this, but I think it sounds like she's kind of given us some grounds to start digging on what we can do and how we can go deeper into seeing this actually go from us just talking about it and storytelling, where, you know, for the last 100 years they've been trying to push through this legislation. How do we actually get this to happen? How do we make effective change happen? We're all very angry.
All right, so I'm not sure if Lucy's gonna come back, but I do want to highlight that Taylor White says missing listening to Andrew in the morning was his daily routine. Hey, guess what? Wednesday we're gonna try to do a full day's worth of streaming because one, we have that mega banks testifying of marginal debt. That's going to happen in the Senate floor, so we're going to stream that, as well as the fact that I won't be here tomorrow in terms of live streaming. I just checked my schedule and I actually have my whole day packed, so I will be providing you guys snippets, brand new content that you haven't seen before, but it won't be a live stream. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's stream. Of course, go ahead, like Jezebel's been saying, head on over to Superstonk Live. It's a YouTube channel. Give them some love and make sure that you guys are pushing that message out. Thanks to Pink and Lucy and everyone else on Superstonk for making that happen, because they do this pretty often now. It's more frequent than weekly. As always, I want to thank the people that make this show possible, like I did earlier on the show. Right, Moon Platoon, Gorillionaire, Meatball the Space Legend, and I want to thank Professor Meatball for helping us get up to really close to 82,000 subscribers. So again, thank you guys for those of you who support the show. We are slowly growing, slowly building, and helping you guys get to financial freedom and passive income. JP Stone, almost missed your final super. You say, made a few tennies today in part due to what you learned from me. All in Webull now. Cheers, Andrew. Thank you. Want to share the wealth. Well, you know what? You're gonna get pinned now, JP Stone. JP. What a guy. Ah, man. All right. Well, once again, thank you guys for joining, and we will see you in the money. Peace.